TeeVo and the Beard. I know you can't see us, but I'm the Beard, and we don't have TeeVo this week. He's up in Atlanta at Dragon Con, getting to meet Brett Dalton, Rose McGuire. McGuire? How do you say her name? No, not Rose McGowan. iZombie.
I don't know. I don't watch that show.
Oh, well, just cut right now. Just in the show, that is the end of everything. But he's up there meeting all the famous people. So I have a special guest this time. You may have remembered him from our Ghostbusters episode, and it's the guest we call Mike.
Hello.
And today we're going to be discussing Don't Breathe.
Yes.
But before we do that, we always like to start the show with a little bit of an icebreaker. You might not know this, but when we do the icebreaker, typically, whether it's me or TeeVo that brings it up, we don't warn the other person of what the subject's going to be. And it doesn't always tie into what the main subject of the podcast is. But this time I'm going to actually use the same icebreaker for this episode that I used for last week. So I don't know if you listened to last week.
I have not had a chance to check it out yet.
I don't listen to the show either, don't worry. But last week I was asking TeeVo about podcasts.
All right.
Now he only had like 2 to mention, but he did tell me that you're into podcasts.
Oh, I have so many.
So a couple of the ones that I mentioned last week were Irish Celtic Music Podcast, The More You Nerd, Rude Tutors. Of course, I listened to some of the bigger ones also, like Welcome to Night Vale, The Nerdist, stuff like that. So what kind of podcasts do you listen to?
I have a fairly eclectic listening collection. Some ones that I would mention just off the top of the head. The first season of Serial.
Okay.
Not the second season. The first season, I got into that, and I'm still focused on it because, for those who don't know, it's following a 1999-2000 murder case where the guy who's in prison is proclaiming his innocence, and he recently won a new trial based on the fact that the story is all... He was convicted on the accounts of one guy, and the story's really wonky, and it's a really fascinating listen. I totally recommend that.
So is it done as just one person talking about it, or is it done kind of like in the radio drama sort of way?
It's an investigation. It's hosted by Sarah Koenig from This American Life.
Okay.
And it's a 12-part series. It features interviews with Adnan Syed, who is the man who's in prison. Mm-hmm. And she also speaks with the witness, though he won't go on the record, so she has to report what he says to her.
Okay.
She speaks with a woman named Deirdre Enright, who works for the Virginia Innocence Project. The Innocence Project is a law group that specializes in investigating and exonerating wrongful convictions.
Right.
It's a really gripping 12-part series.
Okay.
But
season 2, not so much.
Season 2 deals with Bo Bergdahl, and part of it is she doesn't actually interview Bergdahl, so there's a bit more of a distance. Also, it's him. Bergdahl's case to me seems a lot more. There's a lot more disconnect, and there's a lot less ambiguity.
Okay.
Like for just personal verification, I think Adnan is innocent. From what I've learned, both during the podcast and after, because I've been following this rabbit hole for 2 years. Bergdahl, less so. It's less murky. But some other podcasts that I would highly recommend one is called The Dollop.
Okay.
It is 2 stand-up comedians out in Los Angeles, Dave Anthony and Gareth Reynolds. Each week, Dave tells Gareth a story from American history. Usually it's horrifying. And Gareth has no idea, so you get his delightful reactions where he learns about, one episode, for example, was they discussed the death of George Washington, which medicine back then was not exactly up to date.
Right, what it is today.
Gareth was particularly horrified by the fact that every single doctor recommended draining more and more blood from General Washington because bleeding was a thing they did at the time.
Right.
A third podcast that I would recommend, especially if you enjoy bad movies or just ridiculous films like I do, would be We Hate Movies. It's 4 New York City-based improvers and comedians. Some particular highlights, if you want to get just a taste of it, the Super Mario Brothers episode.
Oh, classic.
The Mortal Kombat episode, because they do a nice infomercial for Mortal Kombat Island with Raiden. Like, in those hotel rooms where it's like, check out this. And it's stuff like, come and check out Scorpion's Fire Grill. With deals so good, you'll be saying, get over here. And it's that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Or one of my particular favorites, Ewoks: The Battle for Endor, because of the continuous Wilford Brimley impressions. So those are three just off the top of the head that I would greatly recommend if you are a podcast person.
Yeah, well, hopefully if they're listening to us, they are podcast people. So yeah, go check those out. I'm sure that like the ones I listed, most of the titles of the podcasts correspond to their websites where they can find
their websites. All three of those are also, you can get them on like iTunes, Stitcher, all that sort of thing. But yeah, they all have websites.
Okay. Because like us, we're not on iTunes yet. We're still sitting on YouTube right now.
Yeah, just Google them and it'll come up.
Okay. So yeah, if I can think about it, I'll put some links in the notes for this here. So, but of course, what people are wanting to hear right now is about Don't Breathe.
Yeah,
which
I got to see that.
The new rom-com out right now.
Oh, it's such a romantic comedy. It's hilarious that you say that considering some of the events of the film, but we'll get into that.
Now, I've not seen the film myself, even though I am quite the horror person, but when you have a 3-year-old, it makes it a little bit more difficult to jump out and go see movies all the time.
You wouldn't just bring her?
No, but I've heard literal horror stories of people bringing children to not only this, but things like Deadpool and...
Oh, there was a crying baby when my brother and I saw Suicide Squad. That was entertaining.
Yeah, I bet.
Because, that's where you want to bring your newborn infant to a movie that's nothing but gunplay and fire.
Yeah. Yeah, even if it wasn't for the violence of it, just the sheer noise.
Yeah.
It's got to be enough. But, of course, this is a horror movie. What subcategory would you put this in? Is it like slasher, suspense, monster movie?
Well, you could make an argument that Stephen Lang is a terrifying monster, but I would call it more of a suspense thriller type.
Okay.
Once, if you've seen the trailer, I guess should we do like a general spoiler warning sort of thing?
First, give the basic premise.
If you've seen the trailer, it's a group of friends. They break into the house of a blind man because they're looking for money. Mm-hmm. And, they show this in the trailer. One of them is killed, and then it's the other two trying to escape the house. Okay. And once they break into the house, it's just pretty much go, 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 edge of your seat suspense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times where he'll be fumbling. Stephen Lang who plays the blind man, will be walking around, and they're trying not to accidentally step on a creaky floorboard or even breathe. The title "Don't Breathe" comes from the fact that he's blind and he can hear them. Yeah. So if that does sound interesting to you and you don't want any spoilers, then pause this, go watch the film. From what I've heard, go see it in the biggest screen you can see it in. Go see it in the biggest screen with the best sound system.
At night.
Yes, at night. It helps.
Yeah. And then you can come back, unpause this, and finish listening, because I'm going to let the one we call Mike here go into full spoiler mode here. So, the main actor, I've already forgotten his name.
Dylan Minnette?
Yes. What else has he been in?
Let me pull up his IMDb page, because off the top of my head, I know he was in that Alexander's No Good, Horrible, Not a Very Great Day.
Yeah, which is completely different than this from what I hear. But I've seen neither, so they could be.
He played Jack Shepherd's son on Lost. He was in Goosebumps.
Ooh.
He apparently did a set on Grey's Anatomy and Saving Grace. Okay. Which was some TV show. But he's one of the main characters. The other one is a young woman named Jane Levy, who plays a character named Rocky. She has been in things such as Suburgatory, Shameless. She was in Evil Dead, the 2013 remake, which is good. So she's got a little bit of experience with horror.
So we have someone with a not so good track record, and then someone with an awesome one.
Speaking of the Evil Dead remake, though, just off the top of the head, it's directed by the same guy who directed Don't Breathe, and I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Fede Alvarez, and it was also produced by Sam Raimi. Okay. So it's got a nice pedigree attached to it already. People who know what they're doing for this kind of a film.
Right. To go ahead and kind of touch on something that I think is really important in horror movies, the graphics, the effects of it. Let's go ahead and just start with that right off the bat before we go more into the
Well,
plot?
it's set in the real world, so
Mm-hmm.
they use real world effects.
Okay.
I'm not an expert in noticing if blood is CGI or not,
Yeah.
but it looked pretty good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's Sam Raimi, I would go ahead and assume that it's going to be practical blood.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing supernatural that happens.
Okay.
So really, blood is the only real effect.
But they don't go to like the Tarantino type gore factor.
No,
Where
no, it's
unbelievable.
very realized,
Okay.
very realistic. It's set in our world, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of a this could be happening sort of thing.
Right. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm watching like a horror movie, something that can take me out of it or make it become an absurd movie is the way the effects are done. They can. There's only so much blood that can fit in the human body. So when they chop somebody's head off or something like that, and it's just gallons upon gallons upon gallons.
Oh, you mean like Samuel L. Jackson shooting Damian Bashir and his head popping like a grape?
Exactly. Yeah. So none of that in this.
No, no. I mean, there's even the guy who gets killed that you see in the trailer. He gets shot in the head, and it's very realistic. There's a bit of blood on the wall, and he just drops down, but his head is still completely put together.
Okay.
And it's not like he doesn't. His head doesn't explode, and all of a sudden there's just a headless corpse.
Okay. So you say that it's these kids that are breaking into the blind man's house. One thing I like about a lot of thriller type horror movies or suspense type horror movies is the lead in. But of course, you can't go too long with the lead in. You don't. If it's an hour and a half movie, you don't want to spend the first 45, 50 minutes getting to the house. How does this one go with that?
It's a good lead in. It's interesting. The lead in is somewhat of a meditation on the fact that we have crumbling cities in some places because it's set in Detroit,
Right.
And there's these beautiful overhead shots of just crumbling buildings and stuff. The blind man, Stephen Lang's character, lives in a house, and he is the only person in his neighborhood. It's all run-down houses and stuff. He's the only one still living there.
Okay.
Which leads to some of the terror because it's isolated part of the neighborhood and no one else is there. So
Yeah.
no one can hear you scream.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a good lead-in. It really quickly introduces the characters. The three kids are named Rocky, as I had said, Alex, and then there's Money. Take a guess which one of the ones is the one who dies.
I'm guessing not Rocky.
Yeah. But it really shows real quick, like it shows them doing another break-in. The way they do it is Alex, his dad owns a security company or works for a security company. So he's got keys and key codes for houses, for their alarm systems. And they will unlock, they take less than, they specifically say they take less than $10,000 because that is not a felony. Fun
So
fact.
smart criminals.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they break in.
We're not giving
silently.
advice here on robbing.
So they break in quickly. You're able to turn off the alarm. Then they'll turn it back on, and they'll throw a rock through a window or something to set the alarm off. And they don't steal cash. They steal specifically stuff because Money knows a guy who's a fence who he gives it to and gets a cut of the money. So we learned that about them, and we learned with Rocky. She lives with her little sister and her horrible mother and her Nazi boyfriend. And I say he's a Nazi because, not because he says anything Nazi-ish, but because he's got a very clear swastika tattoo on his hand.
That's normally a giveaway right there. Yeah.
And then you wonder why, he doesn't have a job. I wonder why no one hires him.
Yeah.
So the reason they go to the blind man's house is because Money finds out from his fence, he gets a tip that the blind man, his daughter was killed by a local rich family, and he sued after she was found. The rich girl was found not guilty because wealthy people can get off.
Yeah.
And the word is he got a 6-figure settlement. So they figure at least $300,000 is what they generally say, and they decide to go after that rather than their normal, real small kind of smash and grab.
Okay.
So that Rocky can get her sister and get out to California, and Alex decides to go with them because it's not really clear that Money and Rocky are a couple, but they kind of are, or at least Money acts like it, like blatantly grabbing her ass and making out with her. And it's pretty clear that Alex is in love with her. Like you get the implication they've been best friends for a while, unrequited feelings perhaps.
Right.
And so he agrees to go along with it because he at first is reticent because $300,000, major felony,
Right, yeah.
that sort of thing. But Rocky sees it as, this is our chance to get out. It's straight cash. We grab it from the blind man who won't even notice because we're good. Leave, go to California.
So they kind of let their hubris get the best of them there.
More desperation,
Okay.
I would say, than hubris, because they're not happy about doing this.
Oh,
It's
okay.
That's the thing. Like it shows how desperate their circumstances are. I mean, literally, Rocky's mother, when she walks in, and you know she's a bad mother because the first thing she says to her daughter is, "Your lips look chapped. Is that how you're making your money?"
Wow.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you understand pretty quickly why they're trying to break into the house. I would say the lead up takes maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. But even though these kids are criminals, obviously, you kind of feel sorry for them
Oh, yeah.
watching it.
Yeah, I mean, they're living in not good houses. Even Alex, whose dad has the good job with the security company, the house doesn't look super great, like from the outside. Like I said, like the beginning's almost a meditation on like your crumbling infrastructure of a city and that sort of thing, and just what desperate people will do. Yeah. And so then they get to the house, and the first thing they hear is the dude's got a guard dog. There's a nice jump scare in the trailer about it where he jumps up on the window. And it's a vicious dog. They knock it out with some meat, laced with some sort of, I guess, sleeping pills or whatever.
Course, man. Yeah.
There's a quick sequence of them breaking into the house. The important things are there is a cellar gate, like your storm gate, like if you ever saw Twister,
Right.
you know, where the guy gets sucked up into the tornado at the very beginning. There's one of those, which is important for later. And to get into the house, Rocky has to break a window in a bathroom, which becomes important. And then that's how they get in. And Money has this thing, and I forget if they mention if it's like some sort of chloroform gas or something. He literally makes like a mist machine with a soda bottle that lets this gas loose that is supposedly to knock out the blind man. Also, the blind man is an Iraq war veteran. He lost his sight in the war. They do mention that, which is important because it shows why, even as a blind man, he's able to be such a threat.
Yeah.
But, you know, when he goes to knock him out, the guy's got a VHS of his daughter, you know, when she's like 6, planting flowers and stuff. He thinks he's knocked out, and so then Money makes the mistake of, I think he's knocked out, and he gets really loud, in, like, using a crowbar, because they can't find any secret panels or anything where the money might be hidden. They think it's in the house, but there is a door with a lock on it. Crowbar busts the lock open, really loud. Stephen Lang hears it, or he hears something else. He comes downstairs, and Money, for some reason, had decided to bring a gun. Pulls a gun. This is also some stuff you see in the trailer, but he pulls a gun. Stephen Lang really quickly disarms him, takes the gun from him, asks how many more in the house. Money only says it's him. He shoots Money. Money's dead. Wow. Money's dead 20 minutes into this thing. And now you've got Alex and Rocky who are in the house. He doesn't know that they're in the house yet, but then you see him, he starts getting wood, boarding doors. He's a complete safety freak. Like, they can't get into the front door like they normally do because the front door has 4 locks on it. There's only one key from the security company. So he's got the 4 locks. He's boarding up windows.
Now, do they know that Money is dead at this point?
Yeah, they're in the room with him when it happens.
Oh, okay.
Like Rocky, there's a great shot of it in the trailer and in the film. Covers her mouth and immediately backs into a closet and hides. You know, just because you can't, you know.
I mean, it was nice of him to not rat out his other friends there.
Right? Yeah. Well, he probably thought he might be let go. So then then it becomes, we've got to get out of the house.
Just forget about the money and just run, basically.
That's basically what they think is going to happen, but really it's Rocky finds the money, or rather it's revealed to her because he goes into the safe. There's a safe in the closet, and he opens it and checks, I guess, to see if the money's there. And so she knows that it's there, and then they make it. But this is where the movie's interesting, because he's a blind man. They do a lot with sound, or rather silence. there's a lot of sections where there's not really incidental music, and it'll just be them moving in silence. So you can hear every creak and every breath they take.
Okay.
Like at this point, there's a great shot where Alex is coming down the hallway to try and find Rocky because when Money got shot, they both kind of went in different directions.
Yeah.
And Stephen Lang's coming down the hall, and all of a sudden he has to throw himself against the wall and just hold his breath, and Stephen Lang walks right past him. It's that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah, and I find that when movies don't have like this loud booming music going, it does really put you more into the movie. You become kind of with the character, where you'll find yourself sitting in the middle of the theater holding your breath and being perfectly still.
That's totally how I was. Once they break into the house, it's edge of your seat kind of thing. So what happens is, they're running around a little bit. There's avoiding things. They remember the storm door because they tried to get in that way and it had a latch on the inside.
Okay.
And they were like, if we can go into the basement through that unlocked door that we just busted open, we can go out the storm door, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately our friend is dead, but we can leave. And Rocky grabs the money because of course she does.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame her to a degree because, again, super desperate circumstances. But so they go down into the basement and they're fumbling around. And this is where stuff gets all sorts of wackadoo. So they're going through the basement and they get to this room near the storm door and they turn on the lights. And all of a sudden, this woman who is chained up on like a pile of mats, like she's chained up in some sort of harness system, starts screaming for help.
Okay, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah. So there's a woman tied up in this basement, and he, on the other hand, another thing with the silence is you hear his footsteps
right
above them, and like they hear him. He hears like the screaming and a bell. Actually, because he's got a bell tied to her, I guess, to let him know when she's moving around. So he starts running down, and this basement's huge. Like it's a pretty massive basement. Like there's multiple rooms, and one of them includes like it's got store shelves almost of stuff. Okay, which is interesting.
To kind of harken back to the Evil Dead, kind of how that's set up.
Yeah, and they let her go. They free her, and they realize it is the girl who killed his daughter. Her family, paid off, but because she got off, he kidnapped her.
Right,
and was holding her. For what purpose will be revealed later, and it's really kind of messed up. So,
well, as a dad of a daughter, I'm almost feeling for the guy.
You might right now. We'll get into that.
Yeah, for right now. So,
they've got her, and they're worried because he's coming. Pop open the storm door. He's there. He's at the storm door. At which point he shoots at them, accidentally kills. He's blind. He accidentally kills the girl he's kidnapped.
Okay.
She's dead, and this really upsets him. For reasons that are made clear later, but like he's holding her body and weeping. The two of them are like, screw it, let's try and get out, let's get out the other way. And they start running back to the gate. And this is a really inventive sequence in the film that I really enjoyed. As they're running away in the basement, he goes to like a fuse box or whatever, kills all the power. At this point in the movie, switches to like, it's not night vision because it's not green, but it's a night vision type camera look. Like everybody's pupils are like super huge and black. Yeah. And it's gray, and it's them fumbling around in the dark.
So it puts them all on even ground there. Well, at least for him, even ground.
Well, I mean, it puts them at a complete disadvantage because they show him like running through the hallway, the parts of the basement, and he's got a hand out, and like he'll throw his hand up. Until he'll hit this like cross beam that hangs at a certain point. It reminded me a bit of the play and film Wait Until Dark, which the heroine is a blind woman who is confronted by a knife-wielding thief, and to basically be able to defeat him, she does the same thing and shuts out all the power and is able to kill him and not die. But in this case, it's the other way around, and it's a really thrilling little sequence.
Now, does he realize how many people he's going up against at this point, or is that clear?
Not really. I'm trying to think. I don't think he ever notices that it's just two. Okay. He hears them moving around. That's what it is. He might know just because they show it multiple times that his hearing is very acute,
Right.
like, which is why they're not breathing and everything. So it's entirely possible he hears that it's just two people breathing.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, he might know it's just two because it's just the two of them. Because they have to, they'll shout out each other's names and they're trying to find each other.
Okay. Most dangerous game of Marco Polo ever.
Right?
there.
No kidding. So yeah, there's that going on, and they're able to, by pure luck and nonsense, those shells I was talking about earlier, they tip some of them over on him, which lets him get up and out. But the dog's awake now, and angry, and they get chased upstairs. They get trapped in a room. It's really intense. Alex gets knocked out of a window onto the guy in his kitchen has like a glass ceiling. He lands on that. You think he might be dead. Rocky is in the air vents. Because the air vents, she's like, they make specific mention of the fact that she's able to sneak in the house through a really tiny bathroom window. She's kind of your cat burglar type, I guess. Mm-hmm. So she's up in the vents, and the dog follows her into the vents, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, she winds up falling down. You think Alex is dead. Mm-hmm. She almost gets away. And he grabs her. Long story short, what happens is before he grabs Rocky, before he's able to, literally he pulls her through the vent. Like he hears her in the vents, and like, which is a great shot. Before that happens, Alex wakes up. Stephen Lang hears him, shoots through his own ceiling so that he'll fall into the kitchen.
Wow.
There's a brief fight. And it appears that Stephen Lang, because next to the kitchen, and they do a really good job of framing stuff for later. Mm-hmm. Like when Stephen Lang, or when they break into the house, like it shows them walking through the kitchen, and then next to the kitchen, he's got a workroom with tools and stuff. Okay. Specifically does a zoom up on a hammer that's on the thing. And then there's a brief fight between Stephen Lang and Alex, and it seems like Alex is stabbed with a pair of gardening shears. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to Rocky. She gets pulled. She gets knocked out. Rocky wakes up tied in the old harness system, which, so you're thinking, and I honestly thought the movie was about to end. Yeah. Like I thought it was going to be a Saw ending at this point. It's like, well, you're my captive now. Congratulations and all that. And this is where stuff is going to get into a turn for the really weird. And I know you guys like to keep it PG-13, so I'm going to use the actual medical terminology.
Okay.
But I'll preface it by saying what he says to her is that the girl that he killed, who killed his daughter, he kidnapped her and told her that since you took my daughter, you're going to have to give me a new child.
Okay.
So
yeah,
she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And so now she's dead, and Rocky gets to now fulfill that goal.
Become the surrogate.
Mm-hmm. But as Stephen Lang's character says, I ain't no rapist, at which point he goes to a fridge that's downstairs, pulls out a medical petri dish thing that he puts on a hot plate. I'll let you guess what's in said
a little
dish.
biology 101 right there.
Warms it up, gets a turkey baster, fills it, and it makes the turkey baster look like the most intimidating damn thing ever as he's slowly walking towards her as she is hoisted up in the air, all that good stuff. And you're thinking, oh, God, are we really about to see this?
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, it cuts back upstairs. Mm-hmm. Alex is not dead. Okay. He lucked out. The room they were fighting in was where he dragged Money's corpse. Mm-hmm. So he accidentally stabs Money. Okay. With the shears. I guess Alex held his breath or whatever after having the bejesus kicked out of him.
Yeah.
And grabs the hammer, goes downstairs. I don't know why he wouldn't have grabbed the gun, but, because I think the gun was still up there at that point. But he grabs the hammer that we had foreshadowed earlier, is able to sneak up, because I guess the guy's so focused on, preparing his new incubator.
Yeah.
And right as he's getting ready to insert things, he gets hammered to the head multiple times, gets knocked down. Rocky gets freed, sticks the turkey baster in Stephen Lang's mouth and releases it. So that's kind of gross.
Yeah.
And they handcuff Stephen Lang to the harness.
So this movie is definitely not for a weak stomach.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's like, all right, we can get out. And this is an interesting point where, Alex is like, we should leave the money, and Rocky says, no, we're going to take it. He's going to let us take it. He's buying our silence. Like, because he's just, at that point, he's just like, just take it and go.
Yeah.
And because there's a corpse there. There's multiple corpses.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it's like, as one thing they're trying to do at one point is set off the alarm because that will bring the cops. And Alex, I think, probably rightly points out, once they get here and they see that he's murdered 2 people, they're not going to care about us being thieves.
Right.
I mean, we won't get to keep the money, but they're probably not going to take us to jail because we can get a deal or something.
Right. Yeah.
So they're leaving, and it seems as if they either left the key so that he could get him. I guess they assumed that he was just going to let them leave, and then he would unlock himself. So they're unlocking the doors, and all of a sudden, door opens and Alex is shot multiple times and killed. Stephen Lang had unhooked himself, grabbed his gun, because of course he's got a gun because he's a war vet, and kills him. Which again, I'm just like, no, I would have left them keys, maybe out of reach.
Yeah, just like
make it a little, or
make it a little bit more difficult for him to get.
Or like in Saw, where it's like the doc has to use his shirt to get some stuff. Which that leads me to that movie where it's like, dude, the cell phone is close enough you can use that shirt again. But
there's a lot of holes in Saw. Yeah.
So now Alex is dead. Rocky gets out though, and it's clearly daytime. At which point she decides to taunt him while running. And it's like, you're useless out here. Here comes the dog again. So she runs from the dog. And this was actually kind of a cool sequence, reminding me of Cujo, the movie and the book.
Yeah.
She gets back to their car, but Money had the keys because it was Money's car. So. And the dog is outside. And basically you think, oh, God, she's trapped until he gets there. And the dog's going to keep her there.
Yeah.
She wrangles a thing and traps the dog in the trunk. Basically, like it's got the fold down seats. She rigs they have pull ties, things like that. She rigs it. The dog gets in. She pops open the trunk. The dog hops into it. She's able to get it down, trap him in the trunk. Really kind of a cool sequence.
Yeah.
And then she gets out and she's planning to walk home. Stephen Lang comes up on her. Stephen Lang's a Terminator in this kind of.
It sounds like you can't keep him down.
They specifically mentioned multiple times before they break into the house, he's a war vet, he's a fighter, he's a warrior. I mean, like, when Money at the beginning goes to knock him out with the chloroform gas, he, steps on a creaky board, and all of a sudden Stephen Lang's sitting up, and he thinks he hears something. And you realize from beat one, it's like, this guy is,
It's not just some crotchety old guy in a house.
No, it's not just some old blind dude.
Yeah.
It's, the audience knows that, but not so much them, because Money thinks he can intimidate him with a gun. But there are some good bits in the house where it's like they're hiding, and then Money's cell phone goes off, for example, which he then shoots, and and it's right next to Alex. Yeah. Or when Alex is hiding from him, he's holding his breath right before the fight where Alex, you think, dies. He's holding his breath, but then he has to just breathe because he's been holding it, and Lang is able to hear it come in. The fight ensues. But anyway, so now we cut to he's dragging Rocky back to the house, and Rocky is able to. I forget if she grabs it off of his corpse or has it from him, because he has also at this point hidden the bodies of the woman and Money, and by hidden I mean he's got this vat of liquid that's under his floorboards in his basement, and we see him putting the girl's body in it. Okay. It doesn't say what it is, like if it's acid or lime or whatever to dissolve the body. Yeah. But it seems like
either way, he was prepared.
The evidence is going to be gone.
Yeah.
But Rocky has this clicker that can activate the alarm system, and what happens is she activates it and starts going. It's that da da da. It's blaring. It's really loud, but it's also sending the signal for the cops. Yeah. Stephen Lang covering his ears, and now he can't hear. She's able to grab a fire poker and she does the thing where he's in the middle of the room grabbing his ears, and she runs past him and hits him. and he turns and fires randomly, runs past him from the other way.
Yeah.
All of that. And at the end, she's able to basically knock him down into the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Like what it is, it's the door and then there's a ladder rather than traditional stairs. So
Okay.
she knocks him. He goes back through the hole, falls down to the basement floor, and he's laying there. You can't really tell if he's dead.
Yeah.
Really good shot of his dead eyes or his blind eyes, which is a really cool looking shot.
Yeah.
She has the money, runs out of the house, and you see the first cop car coming as she runs across the street and gets away.
Okay.
Then it cuts to the airport, and she's got her sister. And it was $1 million, not $300,000. I should point that out. It was a full $1 million. And then it cuts to they're at the airport, and the news is on. And it's the news story of an Iraq War veteran who was attacked in his home by 2 robbers that he was able to kill, though he himself was wounded in the attack. And it shows him being loaded into a ambulance. He's alive still because, again, Terminator.
Yeah.
But it also says that he reported nothing stolen. So, again, she was right in that he's buying the silence.
Right.
And it ends with him being taken to the hospital and her little sister boarding a plane to California to escape their horrible life.
Now, do you think that they could also be leading up to like a sequel type thing with that, or, and if so, is that something you would want to see come from this?
I don't know how, just because he doesn't know. He might know her name, her first name, but he doesn't know what she looks like. He doesn't know her plan to move to California. I don't know how he'd get from Detroit to California.
Right. Yeah.
Like he was not aware of her plans, so
it has to be like a horrible straight to video type sequel.
I think more it's going to be a standalone thing.
Okay. Which I don't think enough of those exists nowadays.
Oh,
in
right.
Movies.
I mean, with this same director and that same character, but it would be ridiculous if another group of thieves broke into his house.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of a thing. I think this is going to be its own thing. I think it's going to be a standalone. I think that's good.
And
It's not like the Evil Dead one that these guys did, which, ends with that teaser of Ash, because they are actually planning to bring the 2013 movie universe and Ash vs. the Evil Dead and all that together.
Yeah.
Like, they're
But
planning.
Evil Dead is also a franchise you can mold and play around with more. It sounds like a very action-packed movie from like the moment they get into the house, like you said, to the.
It is. It's a continuous tension.
Okay.
It's like a tightrope the entire time because, as I said, there's not a lot of ambient music once they get into the house. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the intensity is literally them trying not to breathe or step on the wrong floorboard as he's walking around because like literally it'll just be him kind of, he's blind and he's just waving the gun, waiting for a noise, and then he'll fire at the noise. There are sequences of action, but there's also, I'd say more than being action-packed, it's tension-packed. It's a continuous taut wire. Mm-hmm. Like, even when they've got a second to breathe, they really don't.
Right, because you don't want to breathe.
You don't know if he's going to just come up on you.
Now, I just had a question. I've totally blanked on my question. I know it sounds like a great movie though. You said you recommend seeing it at night.
I do. It's for me. It's the ambiance of it, the environment of it. It's to come out of that and for it to be dark because it's.
And then you have to go home to a dark house and.
Well, it's something interesting. It plays with the fact of how much we rely on our sight. Just, if you're not blind, you rely on your sight immensely.
Yeah.
And if that's in that really great sequence where he shuts the lights off on them, they literally go, they're scared, but they think they can make it out because it's like, we can see, we can, maybe, do some things.
Yeah.
Throw some rocks in a corner or something, that sort of thing. To all of a sudden they're fumbling in the dark, completely helpless.
Yeah. And I imagine you said it was an abandoned type area of the city. I imagine there's not like a lot of street lights or.
No, there's like when they go to his house, literally his house is like the only thing that's got some light around it.
Yeah. Oh, now I know what I was. So you make it sound like it all happens kind of in real time. Am I picking up on that right?
Once they get into the house, I would say maybe-ish, but not really.
Like there's not a lot of like, in some movies you'll have like jumps to hours, 2 hours later.
This one kind of jumps because they do specifically say when they break into the house that it's 2 a.m.
Okay.
Though, I mean, and the movie's, like 2 hours or something like that, so it's not when she gets out, as I said, it's morning, so they do time compress.
Okay.
But it doesn't feel like it. Like
I was
honestly,
say, it sounds like it's done well.
yeah.
You know?
Oh, it's done well. Like it didn't feel like like weird jarring thing. Honestly, I probably would have preferred if they'd done it in real time because it felt like it was so well constructed and so taut of a plot and action sequences that it could have easily been real time.
Yeah, it sounds like you could go from like 2 a.m. to 3 or 4 right there.
Yeah, instead of like maybe 6 or 7, I would say. But no, it's at the beginning, of course, it jumps around because it's them going from place to place. But yeah, once they're in the house, it's a straight linear kind of a thing.
And do you think this is now some horror movies? Once you know how it goes through and all that, one viewing is enough. Is this one you think be good for multiple viewings?
That's a tough call.
Well, we're here to ask the tough questions.
Yeah, because a lot of it is built on that tautness and that terror. But I mean, like, I definitely think it's got some rewatchability. I think Stephen Lang does a really great performance. I think the two, kids who live do a great performance. I think it's one where it's like a lot of the rewatchability will be, getting friends together on like a Friday or Saturday night that haven't seen it,
right,
and putting it on, or doing it as like a Halloween movie. Yeah, a lot of the movie's appeal is built in its tension. It's one I'm going to see again. But,
would you end up buying it?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy it.
Okay.
I'm fairly positive I will. It's because it's one I can show to people, but it's also, I'm one who likes to rewatch things and kind of deconstruct.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Because I'd be interested to see, like, what I might notice on a rewatch when I'm able to focus on things in the background, like specifically following Stephen Lang and how his character operates.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you compare this to? If somebody was going out to see it, something they may have seen before.
Well, definitely aspects of Wait Until Dark, as I said, which that's a great movie starring Audrey Hepburn as the blind lady and Alan Arkin as the main antagonist, which is pretty great. That one has that sequence. Other than that, off the top of my head, I'm not really thinking of any in the dark kind of movies like that. Just off the top of my head.
So it's original, at least.
It's as far as I know, it's an originalist concept. I can't think of any other movies. One that I would think of for the continuous tension would be It Follows.
Okay.
That's another movie where it's built on a kind of continuous strain of tension. Mm-hmm. Just that, you're always kind of edge of your seat because you don't know what's coming.
Okay.
And that's a lot of how this movie works, is because, like, you don't know when he's going to show up, and there are those surprises, like all of a sudden there's a woman in the basement.
Yeah.
Because they possibly could have escaped if she wasn't there and it was just a straight run. They could have beat him through the storm door and maybe hopped the fence and gotten out.
If she wouldn't have screamed to alarm him, then yeah,
because he was upstairs, just looking around.
Yeah.
So
it definitely sounds like a movie where you don't want to get the large drink because there's not going to really be a bathroom break.
Yeah, there really is not. It's like if you're going to take a bathroom break, you'd have to do it really early. I would say maybe during the Nazi boyfriend scene, just because then it's just like, after she insults her, you know exactly why she's going for the money, and you can just really quickly run to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. But no, like once they get into the house, it's just go. It's just go. It's just really paced.
Okay.
And it's well paced too. It's tense the entire time, but there are ebbs and flows where you can take a second to catch your breath, but you're never going to be off the edge of your seat.
Right.
Like, it gives you a second to breathe, but it's a quick breath because you don't know what's coming around the corner.
Right, yeah. And you don't want to breathe because if you breathe in the theater, they might get caught on the screen, Exactly. Because you're with them now.
Exactly. Oh, it was fun with the crowd I was with. There were some people behind me. I didn't know them, but they, the way Stephen Lang just keeps coming back as, like, again, Terminator-esque, because it's like, they beat him up with a hammer, like they're hitting him in the head with hammer shots, and they handcuff him, and then all of a sudden he's able to get up, get his gun, and be up there to shoot and kill one of them.
Yeah.
He just keeps getting away, or you think he's dead. It's like, no, he's fine. He's just going to the hospital.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. Normally, when we do these spoiler casts, there's really not much to catch me there. But yeah, this one has some nice twists and turns there, and I
Yeah.
definitely be going to see it.
Definitely.
So I want to thank you again for joining us on the special episode here.
Yeah.
We always look forward to having you back. If you haven't heard the guest we call Mike before, go listen to our Ghostbusters episode as well,
And the Wolverine episode.
and the Wolverine episode. Yeah, so this is your third time.
Yes.
I forgot about the Wolverine episode, to be honest.
Well, you had me arguing good points of X-Men Origins. I don't blame
Oh
you.
yeah, you can't really forget the torture we put you through on that. So yeah, and we'll always be happy to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, until next time. Bye bye.